welcome everybody to the weekly AMA. Joined today with two amazing people, Joseph Armeanio and Mark Glasgow. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for having us on.
I'm a little tired, I'll be honest. I was like thinking with Kushti and MHS and they're in Dubai, so I'm running on fumes, but that's all right. Got coffee.
Nice. Joe, I think last time you were in a hat. This time you've got a new Rosen Bridge sweatshirt. Is that brand new?
No, but it's
nice. I'm wondering when's the Ergo or Rosen tattoo, Joe? When's that next?
I'm not about that, man. Everybody.
All right, what's new with you, Joe? Let's start with you since you're already chatty.
Sure. So what's new with me? Right now, MHS and Kushti are in Dubai, Token 49. Talking about Rosen Bridge, talking about the Sigma Chains idea, talking about Ergo in general. It's always interesting to go to those events because then you kind of learn what's the latest type, what's the popular topic, and that tends to shift, like industry narrative. Sometimes that's something that delivers something valuable. Other times it's a little fluffy, but, so it seems like, the hot topic in the crypto industry at the moment is building on Bitcoin, which is interesting because we're currently on testnet with the Rosen bridge and, Bitcoin kind of side. And it's interesting because, a lot of Bitcoin sidechains are just multi-sig based, right? And, if we look at it from I guess more or less a security perspective, I think we actually deliver a better solution in terms of kind of the standard multi-sig, which, a lot of the times, who knows what the actual assumptions are for the multi-sig that's securing Bitcoin sidechains. But I think that Rosen itself, is like an extended multi-sig protocol, right? Where you have one layer that's continuously auditing than what the other layer is doing. So I'm pretty excited to deliver the Bitcoin bridge. I hope that we can create a lot of unique Bitcoin sidechains in a way where Ergo and Cardano will be the first two. Then Ethereum, is kind of in the roadmap. There's some questions about, how's that coming along? And, it's spec'd. So we kind of have the engineering path. We built some tooling in terms of moving in and out of gas environment, which is a bit different where, you have these adjustable fees where sometimes that's fun, right? On ETH where, I guess in periods of high traffic, sometimes the cost of computation can kind of, be like getting a 4-wheel drive taxi in Dubai the other day when it was flooded, right?
Well, speaking of those fees, Joe, I just I helped my brother-in-law. He was part of a central exchange that toasted itself with bankruptcy. BitMoon or BitPlay or Bit something like that. I can't remember the name. It's half a dozen of one, 12 of the other. And he had GUSD on it and some other, and then Ethereum as well. And I think we were only transferring $500, $600, $700 twice because we had to do GSUSD separate from Ethereum. And it was $50 in fees to get them out of this exchange. It was it's just so demoralizing at that point. It's what the hell's going on?
On one level, that does kind of reflect demand, which I guess is, pretty nice to see in terms of blockchain adoption, but it's also painful, especially when it spikes, where some people are just stuck.
Yep. Mark, what's up with you? How's everything going?
Yeah, good. Kind of working on some similar things. So we've got the hackathon coming up. Hopefully announce it today or the next few days. It's going to be Ergo as a smart layer for Bitcoin and other chains, but Bitcoin's the priority at the moment with Rosen coming up. So yeah, we're working on that for the next few weeks. There's loads of those opportunities to intersect different things we can do for Bitcoin, different ideas we can try to push towards. So I think it'll be a good hackathon. Try and put everybody in and make it a big one.
So currently, what are Bitcoin users accustomed to? They're multi-sigging out to some other chain and doing what they need to do there, and then coming back, or what's the experience usually?
I think there's quite a lot of experiences. I think there's about 100 L2s in development or live, maybe about 30 live or something. So they're all kind of offering different things. Some are doing ordinals, runes. Some are providing smart layers as well, but with different value assumptions, like more VM style account model. But I think Ergo's in a unique position because it's so closely aligned to Bitcoin with both ethos and code. I think it's a good fit. So there's a lot of things we can do there to try to pull in big swathes of the Bitcoin community that would be more keen to go with us rather than the likes of ICP, who's launching Bitcoin there too. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot to kind of capture those people. But
Yeah,
the individual experience thing is still quite immature at this point. It's still developing, quite varied. But yeah, I think we've got a good spot to slide in there.
Bang. Let's see. What do we have for the SIGs? It's been a busy week. We've got a couple votes up on Padilla. The mining pool's going pretty well. We are up to about, I think we peaked at about 39 gigahash this week. And I'm going to say it, but let me knock on wood. Our luck's been really good lately with blocks. And I've got notifications set up to notify both Discord and Telegram when blocks are found. I also have like a post that pops up every 6 hours letting us know the stats of the channel and how to get support and that kind of thing. And then we also have, as I may have mentioned the dev update, but maybe I didn't have it ready yet. We got a donation of Dark Air Doge. And I know there's a swap pair for Dark Air Doge and Air Doge on Spectrum, and then there's an Air Doge and Erg swap pair as well. But so every 420 blocks, which is about 14 hours, 30 Dark Air Doge are just donated to a random miner that is in the SIGs pool. So we're going to expand that a bit. We're probably going to ask for donations maybe from the community. I might have some greasy sex that I'm going to donate to that as well. So we'll spin up another bot that donates every 14 hours some greasy sex. And I just put in a vote in Padilla that essentially is the idea was to bolster, kind of put some upward pressure on some of the social tokens that are providing a social effort to bring in views and bringing people into Ergo. So let's take like Ergo 1, let's take Bulber, Greasy Sex, Comet, those kind of things. And if we can take a little amount, like 100 Ergo a month, and just put it towards the liquidity pools by buying market buy right on the Spectrum, then we take those tokens we get and we'll use them in incentives for the Ergo mining, for the Sigmanauts mining pool. So it's kind of a two-factor there. So we'll see how that vote goes. The big news, though, is that we should, in the next 6 to 8 hours, know if the sponsorship for the Cornell Blockchain Conference for the Sigmanauts went through. So there's an opportunity for us to sponsor and have our, Joe choked out on us, to have our logo up on the Cornell Blockchain website, to have our my face up on the website. I'm going to be participating in the DAO panel, which is one of the more popular panels in the conference next week. So it's a good opportunity to get our name out there. And the plan is, when I go to this conference, I'm going to try to take a bunch of paper wallets that I hand out with some NFTs or some tokens on it, as well with some info about Ergo, and get those passed out as well. But it's going to be a fun time. So that's a big thing. It's next Friday or Thursday, Friday, I believe, next Friday. So I'll head down to the city on Thursday night and spend the day at the conference. Going to be fun. Try to connect, get the Ergo name out there, and see how it goes. What else? Mark, what else did I miss from the Sigmanauts chat? You had an amazing you plugged like the whole chat in for last week into an AI, and it spit out a pretty darn good summary.
Yeah, we've got Claude now, which has quite a huge context window. So I just exported the full chat, and you can feed in quite a big chunk. And it has pretty good understanding of it and picks up most things. So we've had allocate to duck pools. I think that's the yield. Providing 1,000 hour to 4eyes devs to create Sigma lock.
That's right. The Sigmanaut vote passed, so we're going to start developing Sigmalock soon with 4eyes. That's going to be fun. Yep.
Mining pool buffer for payouts. Advertising, new sig cans. And then just a bunch of discussions on things to do. I think there's a UX hackathon Graven was planning. Different ways the sales can work on improving the ecosystem. I know they've been boasted about with the treasury.
Did the bot pick up how much we give Louis Vatra crap for Padilla in chat?
It did, yeah. I took a few of those lines out. There's too many lines. But yeah, loads of stuff, and that's just the past couple of weeks.
Nice. So, all right, let's start. Since we're waiting for some questions, why don't we talk about how we as a community, and well, the SIGs especially, for the SIGs, watching this, how we can position ourselves. We did some attempts with promoting what Cardano could do over on Ergo for that. But what do you guys think is the best way to position ourselves as Sigmanauts and as Ergonauts to entice Bitcoin holders to cross the bridge, come over to Ergo, utilize what Ergo has as far as lending, duck pools, SigmaFi, Padilla, governance, all that kind of stuff. What's the best approach for that, you guys think?
I'll go for it, Mark.
I was going to say just in positioning, just kind of driving home how we're similar to Bitcoin, the same values, the programming model, kind of highlighting the strengths of the other ones. In terms of networks, I've been looking out. Nostr is quite inactive, but there's still lots of high quality Bitcoin people there you can target. Maybe do PPC campaigns, Twitter campaigns, press releases. But yeah, there's loads we can do. Let's try and connect the Bitcoin world.
So what I noticed lately, not lately, but in crypto specifically, is you're never going to convince somebody to come visit when you tell them that you're better than them, right? So there's got to be some sort of finesse in here where you recognize Bitcoin's strengths, you recognize what it is and what it does, and then you also inform of how Ergo can enhance their positions there and that kind of thing. So if people keep that in mind when they're out there talking about, why come to Ergo and that kind of thing, you don't have to shit on the other chain necessarily or say that we're better than the other chain as far as that goes, or even that we're, Bitcoin 2.0, that might piss them off at that stage, who knows? But if you acknowledge the fact that what they have is a great, what their tool is great, and here are some tools to enhance it, perhaps you might, better encourage people to jump over the bridge and see what's up on Ergo.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're less than 2 days away from the next halving, and that's always an interesting event in Bitcoin, because, like, on the public facing side, everybody's kind of cheerleading more or less, right? They're like, oh, the halving, and but what happens essentially is the security budget that the protocol pays out gets cut in half, and so miners are going to lose, somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million a day. That's, emitted as security budget, that they've currently built their business, their infrastructure around, in terms of like the revenue from that payout. And, when the security budget, drops, that's painful for miners, right? That's actually painful for producers, because suddenly, day one, their rewards get cut in half relative to, let's say the previous emission cycle. So I think that's actually probably a part of why, we see a ton of, ideas. Okay, how can we, extend the value of Bitcoin, right? Because ultimately, the security needs to, make sense. People need to be able to mine it at a profit. And so we're going to go through like a consolidation phase where, so I'd say the mining pools that have kind of planned ahead will stick around. The ones that are no longer profitable are going to be in trouble. And that's always like the case where you kind of see this consolidation among the miners towards, let's say their kind of profitability. And, a lot of people are going to be underwater, basically, like in terms of their production costs. I believe last having the security budget dropped somewhere between 7 and 8 million daily. This time, around about 30. So that's, something that offering solutions that extend returns, is quite important. It's true you have a lot of hodlers out there, I guess. And, I think the pure, BTC maximalists probably will, just hold, right? That's generally the case. But I think there are a lot of sophisticated people out there that are diversified across ecosystems that, have more experience with DeFi. And so then there is like some natural incentive to say, okay, well, I have this collateral. How can I make an additional return? And that's one thing that, Ergo potentially offers, right? Given enough liquidity, we could actually build some cool products that are Bitcoin backed. It would be really nice to see, like, what if you had DEXI wrapped BTC where you're, kind of collateralizing Bitcoin and creating a gold derivative on top of it. I think there's a lot of, cypherpunk enthusiasts that, recognize kind of the significance and value and kind of history around this idea of creating a gold-based digital cash. So my thought would be something like that might be cool to talk about, because, well, that's kind of the pre-roots of like cypherpunk development was gold, this idea of creating some type of gold derivative on the internet.
Yeah, I think you can do, especially with Sigma chains, where you can do stuff like double merge bind, give a kind of bigger value add there, makes it a bit more tangible for miners, so they can mine a side chain, submit the auxiliary data to the side chain, and it makes transaction on Bitcoin. So that's another incentive stream. And even though there's 100 L2s competing for space in Bitcoin, there's only a handful that doing anything near that.
Even on simple terms, guys. I mean, right? For the simple miner, right? Cannon put up that note the other day that made us like the duck pools. ADA's yielding, I think, Rosen ADA's yielding 6% on duck pools, which is essentially probably more than any stake pool out there for ADA, for ADA. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty neat too. I imagine once Rosen BTC crosses a bridge, we're probably going to see some lending there and give yield options and profit making opportunities for Bitcoin people coming over, even on that simple side, without any of the amazing stuff you guys are talking about in the future already.
Yeah, there's been a statement around that, like the market is the best marketing, right? So I tend to think that's true. Where if you have the right incentive there, it'll drive the result.
Yeah, that's exciting. So are you looking at Ethereum right after Bitcoin or Dogecoin? You going to go right to Doge after Bit because it's pretty similar, Rosen?
No, we're good with Rosen. Right now we already have Ethereum spec basically, and a big part of that is moving in and out of kind of the gas environment, because I don't know if anybody has ever used Ethereum and paid, and then they didn't pay enough gas, or the gas price changed, and then they're dead in the water, and yeah, it's just painful. But right now we have a private testnet for BTC, and once that's refined enough, we'll do a actually mainnet launch where it's like kind of a beta testnet, but on mainnet. Once that goes through an additional, check process, we'll actually add the UI and allow, open it up to the public, basically. So we'll kind of go through those 3 steps in terms of the BTC rollout. I would say once we finish that process, we're ready to start a private EVM testnet. But right now, kind of the resources are pointed at making sure that the BTC bridge is stable. It's basically operating as we should. Security checks make sense. So we'll be trying to break it and improve it on private testnet before we move to kind of like a private mainnet. And once that's open to the public, then we'll rotate and we'll get into EVM. We did get Catalyst funds that, we kind of have milestones. We actually may have already passed 1 or 2 of them, but, right now BTC is the main focus. Then after we have both of those, we have a nice base that we can extend, right? So, Litecoin, Doge, Bitcoin Cash, there's quite a few Bitcoin forks out there. I think even, Flux and a couple others that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Then you also have a ton of, like EVM things, right? Whether you're talking about Binance Smart Chain or Tron or, variety of different L2s. So it's interesting because, we can create side chains, but we actually naturally work well where in theory, you can use Rosen for just like a bridge to layer 2, right? And even, let's say you have, I don't know, ETH and, some other, layer 2 on top of ETH. You can still use Rosen when we're connected to both environments, but it just becomes like a universal solution for bridging. So I'm excited. I think that BTC is certainly we're kind of shifting in like the Bitcoin era where, as Mark was saying, we have hundreds of projects that are trying to extend the functionality of Bitcoin. And so I'm excited to, potentially offer, Ergo and, everything else that we're going to be connected to with Rosen as a part of, that solution.
Do you see that? Do you expect the watcher config and node setup for being a Bitcoin watcher to be a little more complicated than the Ergo or Cardano?
I don't think it'll be that different in terms of setup. I think it'll be relatively similar.
And same amount of Rosen staking or locked to be able to do it. That's not changing by then.
Well, that's probably going to stay the same. Right now, I'm going to blame Louis Batra, to be honest.
Why not?
Blame Louis Batra. Well, I mean, we once we have better governance tools, right? And Paideia is a big part of that on Ergo. Then I think we can have more serious discussions, debates that are actually, I don't know, distributed across actors instead of permission-based conversations, right?
Yeah, the issue with those, Joe, is that there's no incentive for action or like stress for action. So when we talk in the guard chat and there's a proposal up there about, or somebody asks a question like, hey guys, what do we think of this moving forward? We got to put some minds to this. There's no incentive or action based, timeline. But if you go to Paideia and you put up a discussion for, 30 days and it actually changes a config parameter somewhere, or something happens and somebody's going to act from that time expiration, you're going to actually facilitate a more pressured conversation where, hey, shit, we need to talk about this because, this vote ends in 2 weeks kind of thing. So it really puts that pressure on to actually enact and be part of it.
Yeah, evolve beyond devs arguing online to some kind of actual centralized governance.
Yeah. Oh boy, Mark, how do you feel the SIG's Paideia experience has been going for you?
Yeah, I think it's been going pretty well. A few teething issues as expected as beta, but it was working surprisingly well for beta. been able to get past most bugs. People get proposals up. I've just actually rewrote the documentation page to be a bit more helpful to new users, tell them the steps to get started. But I think with that, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, it's working pretty well.
Are you part of the Walrus DAO as well that's up there?
Not know, is that active as well?
I believe so. I believe he activated it when the Good Things DAO was activated, which reminds me, I need to get those tokens out to people. Awesome. All right. Well, guys, got anything else? You want to take a few questions that are up here?
Let's get to the questions. See what the community has to say.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. You want to take them, Mark? You got the link?
I'm just on Zoom. I've got the link.
Okay. I'll read them. Andy can click them then. I think you already answered the one about Ethereum development for Rosa and Joe. Let's see. Wamba wants to know if we can give a specific chain that a Sigma sidechain with emissions designed to offset monetary policy can affect, and
Say that again.
can you give a specific chain that a Sigma sidechain with emissions designed to offset monetary policy can affect / how? You should see it up there now.
Okay. Yeah. So one of our ideas with the Sigma chain concept was to support, other algorithms for Sigma, right? And I guess from a really high level, if you look at proof of work coins, essentially, you need to burn energy and run a computer in order to buy them. Okay. And that's kind of unique in terms of how money is created versus, creating a token or perhaps, like proof of stake, like the emissions factor. So our net goal there was to say, okay, well, if we create trustless sidechaining with Ergo, we can potentially build an emissions contract very similar to how we bootstrapped Ergo that went to the Ergo Foundation. And we could actually build, potentially multiple emission contracts, right? We could take a percentage of emissions and say, okay, well, we can create our own emission curve that will go to Erg miners. We could create potentially, a development DAO on this chain. We could, do a lot of unique things in terms of smart emissions. And one thing that I think is important would be to take some allocation. It doesn't. Let's see. It's still like a high level idea, and actually distribute that to Erg miners, right? Where the protocol actually pays. Erg miners a certain subsidy per, block or at some interval, to where the side chain actually helps secure, Ergo itself. And what that does is kind of unique is it not only offers an additional incentive for, our miners, but it also puts proof of work collateral into the Erg ecosystem, which naturally should kind of move upstream and, land in DeFi somewhere. At least I would assume some percentage of it would, right? And so then you get this really unique idea where it's like you're using this kind of contractual standard that we've built to, mine value on chain. And then it's like, okay, well, if I can take a step back and kind of like extrapolate that across multiple Sigma chains in the future, what would it be like if, we could have a small percentage of, 10 chains admitted to Erg miners, and that kind of offsets our own security budget. It also, benefits Erg that, you have like natural collateral that's being emitted on chain. And it benefits the development layer because now, all of our dev teams have the ability to make their apps more portable in different environments, right? So, if let's say, Rosen could potentially, connect all these chains to the outer environment, something like duck pools could become a standard for kind of the Sigma software suite. And that's one unique thing about, what we've done in terms of bootstrapping a open source ecosystem, right? Open source software is more portable. It's more adaptable versus when you have one closed team that, kind of controls repositories, right? And so if we can do that long term, potentially we can create this unique network where you have CPU miners, GPU miners, potentially a variety of ASIC miners, all mining value into the same constellation, right? And I think that would be amazing, not just in terms of like portability, where users can then choose, like let's in theory say duck pools moved into multiple environments. It's like, okay, well, which environment is offering the best return, right? So you get like a certain free market advantage, but also on the hardware side, you kind of get a nice demand-based emission where, maybe at one point, like a CPU Sigma chain is performing the best in terms of profitability, or maybe an ASIC chain is performing the best, or maybe, Ergo itself is performing the best, right? But all of the miners would essentially be, burning energy and running, computers to create money in that constellation. And, if we can create like universal standards across that constellation, I think it creates like an incentive for a larger dev mind share, right? Where more people would come in and be interested in Ergo and, Ergo tree, Sigma, learning how to, code contract. And then I guess the natural extension of that would be this idea of like universal layer twos built on top. You could look at something like Chain Cache or, a variety of other potential solutions for like layer two environments. So I think long term, that's the best way to make, Sigma, survivable long term. Like it's an interesting idea to say, okay, well, what if we also, could experiment with post-quantum cryptography in a sidechain, and, kind of have these playgrounds where we can build for the future, plug in new Sigma protocols, new parameters. And if something really works long term, then, you have this like potential to universally bootstrap an update, right? Let's say we put bulletproofs, on a sidechain, which is a, more advanced Sigma protocol than Ergo currently runs. And, it shows that it has value and, the developer experience is nice, then you can kind of update the whole constellation potentially, if miners vote for it. So I think it makes everything more survivable long term and kind of grows a unique network effect that we haven't really seen. ETH is probably the best example of taking the EVM and making it kind of portable. And I mean, the truth is more or less a lot of EVM environments do kind of run the same code, right? Pancake swap, Uniswap, Sushi swap, multiple dexes are really built from the same open source bones. Sometimes there are some, tweaks and tools on top of it, but that's something that I think that looking at like the scope of the network stack and software stack we've built on top of Ergo itself, we have enough developed to where we really have a nice open source operating system for DeFi. And so then the question is just how do we absorb energy, right? And so I think that's a great way to absorb energy into that framework, is to make it to where it's more or less universally accessible by miners in the future. Because, well, I like proof of work. Just that. I like proof of work, just how money is created.
Well, I got a question for that, Mark, and maybe this is relative to you. How do we, so in the future, when we have sidechains going and you have ASIC miners, you have CPU miners, you have, sidechains acting as layer twos for other ecosystems. How does a community look in that aspect? I mean, that sounds like instead of having an ergo-centric community, at least we have now in the base chain here, how does that look? When I think of that, I think that, okay, there may be Ergo sidechain communities that exist well out of the scope and reach of what the main community is in the future. So fragmented that we may not even know that, it's partially there. Maybe it's only using part of the Rosen to bring some things over and not. How's that fragment look to you guys as far as community goes?
It's important to look at upstream dependencies, right? So I've like in pitching this idea, the two things that people tend to like get lost in my opinion, is they're like, wait, you're going to support ASICs on Erg? No, we're not. It would be its own sidechain, right? It would be a sidechain that runs on the same upstream dependencies. Okay, and so of course, like Dev Mindshare itself would kind of work with the Ergo ecosystem, and it would probably need to, right? And then there's the question of saying, okay, well, we have all of this open source code. We have all of these open source wallets. I think that the natural tendency would be to create more of a unified user experience, right? Like if one application is in multiple environments, why wouldn't they want the backends plugged together? And from the wallet side, why wouldn't they want the backend plugged together? So there's a natural incentive there to create some sort of alignment anyway on the infrastructure side, because then you're connected to more liquidity. You kind of overcome this cold bootstrapping problem that occurs in proof of work where you don't have external access. You either need to pay or build for it, right? But it's important to look at the concept and say, okay, like that upstream compatibility would be important if you really want to have more of a unified user experience and unified liquidity. And that's actually one of the problems with a lot of the layer 2 solutions that we're seeing, both on like EVM and on top of Bitcoin, is there's a lot of different standards that are emerging that are not so compatible with each other, and then liquidity becomes fragmented and it doesn't really flow from system to system very efficiently, right? And if we build on top of a Sigma standard, we have the ability to do that better, in my opinion, where that upstream dependencies being unified and kind of the wallet experiences being unified, and the DApp, like if you build a DApp in one environment that supports Ergo Tree, why wouldn't you want that to be portable? There's an incentive there. And so I think that just having like incentive alignment and kind of the open source standards in place would naturally create some type of synergy.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really see this fragmenting, more as expanding, because it'll be interoperable to a certain level. So
Yeah,
be kind of similar today, but you have the apps launching, maybe they launch their own chain. So maybe Cyberverse would launch their own sidechain, which is quite similar to having a token on Ergo. It's not that much difference. I'm sure there'll be parts of it won't see. So you might see like Sigma Doge launching.
Sigma Doge.
They'll use the apps in their chain. Maybe the emission contract buys back Doge. You maybe have ASI ones that the community won't be involved with. Just a blow branch out, but it's because it's all interconnected, it will kind of and benefit the upstream dependencies, as Joe said. I think it's the way forward to expand and grow that way.
On a community level, the fragmentation is just like additional networking in a way. If you go to larger chains, their ecosystems are just so big that like there's nobody that has full scope and view of the entire community, right? They like organic growth is unpredictable, and you'll see a lot of people that kind of congregate around certain things, grow in certain ways. And, I think that like fragmentation of the community is not a bad thing. I think it's good. It's already happened on Ergo. I have no idea what's happening across the whole ecosystem. I try to kind of stay up to date, but it's beyond me.
We've already had projects like I think Zephyr, which is essentially a protocol based on Sigma USD, and that's not using all the upstream dependencies. It is more fragmented, so if there was Sigma chains, maybe they would have chosen to launch that way instead. That was available to them.
Right, that's a CPU mineable stable, right? Or not stable, but CPU mining protocol for Zephyr.
Yeah, it's a stable. Yeah, I think that's the full protocol. It's like Sigma USD for a protocol. It's private.
Yeah, and
Nice.
that's one of the benefits of open source, right? Is they said, hey, we want a stable coin, and here's a framework for it that's, we can dig through and replicate. And we can simply use those frameworks to build things that bootstrap faster and are more unified.
Well, let's see what else we have. We have, well, why don't you take another stab at this, Mark and Joe? Wombo wants to know another one from Wombo. He's going to get bonus points today. Um, can you explain the meaning behind Ergo being the Bitcoin smart layer? What you mentioned earlier.
It was just
Sure.
augmenting Bitcoin with all Ergo smart features, Sigma protocols, advanced smart contracts that can be Turing complete, while adhering to Bitcoin's kind of underlying principles and style, keeping it nice and simple, no extras in the core. So yeah, it would just slot right into Bitcoin quite neatly.
Yeah, I would say, you have a lot of older proof of work coins that you can buy them, you can hold them, you can send them, you can sell them, right? And if we look at let's say the last cycle, kind of 2021, 2022, there was a lot of, well, centralized custodial services that were offering yield to Bitcoin as like a community, and they actually saw pretty decent adoption. There is demand there for people to earn additional rewards with their assets. Now, some of those were I don't know, a little funny business. You got asked the question always, where's your yield come from, right? Um, Sometimes the answer to that is a little scary, but at least when we have on-chain protocols with clear smart contracts, you can actually see where your yield comes from. It's not, let's say, some magic in the back, right? So I think that having the ability to use Bitcoin as collateral in lending and in DeFi, it just extends like a smart contract based layer for potential Bitcoin holders to play with, right? So that's why Bitcoin smart layer kind of makes sense, but will be a Doge smart layer. Once that's added, it would be Bitcoin Cash smart layer. Sometimes I don't know. It like that's kind of the trend more or less where, there's a lot of popularity in terms of building on Bitcoin. And as I said earlier, a lot of, Bitcoin sidechains are just multi-sig based. And Rosen, in my opinion, is a better protocol than just a naked multi-sig.
All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, I want to let everybody know that we tweeted it this morning. The Palm, right? The Palm launch was this morning. Seems to be going really well. I think they're close
Yeah.
to 75 or so percent full already. So, and there was so much demand over there that the Rosenerg ADA pair went 12 cents higher than ERG did. The arbitrage couldn't keep up fast enough over there. So that's looking really good for Dan's team, Palmera Zengate. Really happy for them. That's sounds like a successful start to their tiers that they're doing for their IDO.
Yeah, I think Dan's stomping around in Dubai too. So I hope they're having a good time and happy to see them have a successful launch. Been working on that for a while.
Yes, he has. I think as he posted a video on Twitter yesterday, driving around in a taxi with water up to the door. I think seems pretty crazy over there right now. All right, let's see. Who else do we have? Welu wants to know, does anybody have a timeline essentially for like when side chains when we'll start seeing those pop up?
Right now, I would say in the core development, one important thing that we're working on is 6.0, and that's something to deliver. But it's important to recognize Sigma Chains is not a short-term goal, right? it's something that I hope that I can spend the next decade, trying to drive the adoption of, the Sigma layer, potentially plug in some new zero knowledge, proofs into it, play with different protocols, and we can kind of make that a long-term goal, because number one, I see that as a potential way to secure not just like the security budget of Ergo, but also, to secure an environment where devs can play in for a long time, where a lot of the logic and frameworks that we've built become more portable and, more resilient. So I think that's not this is not a 2-week venture, right? This is a decade venture where, I think like the core organization and tooling is probably the most important, because I think if it's engineered well, in kind of the initial phase, our focus should actually be more on the tooling to bootstrap these sidechains rather than to create a sidechain itself, because then the process becomes something we can replicate with less energy, less time. And as that becomes more efficient, then we have the ability to spin up this constellation of chains at a faster rate. So I know that, people love to say win, 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 but from my perspective, if we're playing the long game, that tooling and infrastructure to actually spin out these systems needs to be like the first priority, and that'll pay dividends in the future in terms of like saved energy and time to create new Sigma chains once that process kicks off.
All right. Hopefully that satiates their when question, Joe.
Probably not.
All right. All right, we got another one from Womble. QX, will the DAO panel be your first panel you'll be speaking at? How excited are you? Any plan on what you're going to talk about? So they are kind of structured. No, it's not my first panel to speak on. Maybe my first crypto panel to speak on, but not in life, not my first speaking panel. They're going to give us kind of the theme of the questions ahead of time, and I think they give everybody a chance to answer. So kind of like if you go to Rare Evo or you went to NFTLV and you see Charles and Dan and Joe up on stage, it's kind of like that, where they ask a question and everybody cycles through it with their responses. And then I'm hoping there's some time for kind of dialogue between the panelists. That'll be nice, instead of just the panelists speaking out to everybody in the audience. And one thing I'm going to try to be conscious of is, at least speaking to the organizer here about the difficulties of DAOs currently. These guys on other chains, these guys are still really focused on, the issue with DAOs is people with more money can have more of a vote, or people that have more Discord accounts can have more than one vote, kind of thing. So, I'm just going to try to be a little conscious about not being like, oh, well, Ergo's got it all, and we have this and we do that. I don't want to sound like an asshole. So it's going to be, I'm trying to be mindful there and as productive as possible, letting them know that we're in the working stages of this and we have betas going, and these are the difficulties we've found with Discord DAOs and those kind of things. Again, I don't want to shit on anybody's bed here. We want to look attractive to people and not stuck up cunts kind of thing.
I really only hope one thing, that if, that happens, there's a QX in the audience, because those of you that don't know, he's a bit of a clapper and a screamer when it comes to the whole panel thing, right? It's like 80% of the energy in the room is coming from that one spot.
Oh, that was fun, Joe. That was fun. All right, what else do we have here? I think Hosky Deck says maybe get Charles Hoskins' son on Ergo board. It's the smart move. I don't know. I'll give my own opinion on that. I think Charles has his own thing that he's doing, and Ergo needs to be able to stand on its own legs there. And I guess that's as simple as I can put it. I'm sure everybody appreciates when Charles, mentions Ergo and that kind of thing. But we're our own thing. We gotta stand on our own here.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I always, appreciate Charles' support. He understands kind of the value of Sigma. To be honest, it's really an amazing protocol if you look at like how light it is compared to Bitcoin, and just it's a beautiful framework, right? So it's something that he's always supported, but I don't think that we should get into this mentality of like, Charles, save us, because how many projects on Cardano are more or less that's their game plan, is like, let's get Charles to save us, right? I think ultimately, at the end of the day, see him as a community member, appreciate the support, time, and energy he throws our way whenever he does, but let's build our own thing, right? Don't rely on one person to like save us. We don't need that type of mentality, because the truth is, like, collectively, the Ergo community is smarter than any one person, much smarter than me, much smarter than Alex. And so I think this idea that we should look to just one person to kind of be like the leader for everything is neglecting the collective mind share of a community, right? I think ultimately the best option long term is to have competing ideas, have people fight, and the best one wins.
Yeah, and that'll happen naturally, Joe, where, Ergo does something amazing and we'll get the attention of Charles and he'll mention something. We'll get the attention of some big YouTuber or Twitter or X person and they'll mention it. That's, let's just keep doing amazing things and that'll happen naturally. We don't have to worry about that as far as that goes. But when you talk about IQ of blockchains, guys, it reminds me of something, some quote back maybe when World of Warcraft first came out. But it reminds me of Ergo. It's like when somebody leaves the Ergo ecosystem and goes to another blockchain somewhere else, the collective IQ of both chains go up, if that makes sense. Just, yeah, so it speaks to the amount of knowledge that the Ergo community has and the involvement they have and the passion they have in the community. So yeah, in that sense. All right, well, we're approaching 5 minutes. You guys you got anything else? Any silly questions? Oh yeah, let's see. Jemai says QX is a Quino blockchain conference. I can't see, worth checking out for people in the area. So if our sponsorship goes through, we have 6 tickets available. So I'm happy to hand those tickets out to whoever wants to swing by. It'd be interesting to come by as a community member to help network, that's for sure. I'll definitely give you the paper wallets that I make. I'm going to print them and we can, distribute them ourselves. It'd be nice to go on panels to see, those kind of things are nice just to see how the rest of the world is doing. We sit here and sometimes we get questions in AMAs about, well, how do they do this on Polygon or what are they doing here? And, honestly, I have no fucking idea, right? I mean, we've got our head so far up these projects' asses that it's hard to see that kind of thing. So in a manner of that sense, it's nice to be able to go out there and see what everybody else is doing. Just like at NFTLV and Rare Evo, it's great to have those experiences, so you see, oh shit, we're really behind the game on this one, or oh, we're really advanced for that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say those kind of things are beneficial if you're in the area, swing by. And I wrote Louis Vatra for a support request on Padilla, and he just texted me back and said, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." Top level support there, guys. Thank you, Louis. What do you guys want to wrap it up closing with? Mark, you got anything?
Not off the top of my head. The main thing is just keep your eye out for the hackathon announcement and come and participate.
Yeah, I would say that's always exciting. We're kind of slowly approaching the Ergoversary, July 1st. So I'm excited to, kind of start the process of organizing all the events and videos. And it's one of those things that as the community grows and fragments, I am very happy that, more people are showing up in content, right? So like the weekly dev update, I don't have to do it alone anymore, right? I don't even have to do it sometimes. And then looking at these type of community events, I would really encourage everybody out there to participate, because you're an equal community member, right? Like that's something that, if you have the time and the energy and you want to, talk about what's important to you or what you're working on or what you find interesting, it'd be great to see more community engagement, because that's something I can watch, right? I'm in a video, I never watch it.
Joe, I think we should do. I did kind of enjoy what I'm going to call the Dev Update Distillery edition live last week with you. That was some good whiskey drink in there, Joe.
Yeah, well, I guess.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to stay on the socials. Check everybody out. Join the SIGs if you want to. I guess we got to mention that. And hope to see you around. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for showing up bright and early for Joe and a little later for Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.